Ever notice how Thanksgiving is supposed to be this peaceful, heartwarming holiday and somehow it turns into a full-scale hostage situation? Because every year, I walk into my parents' house like, all right, maybe this year we'll all act normal, and immediately my uncle greets me with a conspiracy theory about how turkeys are actually government drones. And I'm just standing there like, sir, I haven't even taken my shoes off yet. I don't know what it is about Thanksgiving, but that's the day everyone in your family decides that boundaries were optional and personal space is a myth. The whole time I'm thinking, does this happen to anyone else at Thanksgiving? Or is my family the only one that treats dinner like a live podcast no one asked for? So I sit down at the table, trying to blend into the mashed potatoes, and my mom puts me on the spot like I'm giving a TED Talk. She goes, Nate, say the prayer. And I don't know why, but every time I have to pray out loud, I forget how to talk to God. I'm like, it's me again, so anyway, thanks for the food and all the stuff you do. You know what it is. Meanwhile, the whole family is staring at me like I'm negotiating a peace treaty. Swear the turkey is judged less harshly than I am. Then halfway through dinner, someone brings up politics, which should honestly be illegal on Thanksgiving, because suddenly my aunt is crying. My uncle is yelling, and I'm just trying to figure out if I can sneak out with the rolls without making eye contact. But my favorite moment, the grand finale, is when the food coma hits. Everyone pretends they're just resting their eyes, and I'm sitting there watching the whole family slowly pass out like we're in a nature documentary. I'm thinking, this is the closest we'll ever be to peace. So yeah, every Thanksgiving, I leave wondering if anyone else just survived a family gathering that felt like a sermon, a courtroom, a group therapy session, all at the same time. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. If your Thanksgiving looked anything like mine, just know you're not alone. We're all out here trying to survive the same holiday with the same people who lovingly raise us and then roast us harder than the turkey. Thank you, you've been great. The moment you walk into a Thanksgiving gathering, there's this unspoken hope that maybe, just maybe this year will feel normal. But the second the door opens, you realize that hope was foolish and overly optimistic, believing your GPS when it says 5 minutes left. Because before you can even get both feet inside the house, your family transforms into the most chaotic welcome committee in American history. They all rush toward you like you're a celebrity who definitely isn't famous. The hooks start immediately because every relative acts like they've been sitting in silence for 11 months, waiting for you specifically to show up so they can unleash every story, complaint, opinion they've been stockpiling like emotional Tupperware. Your uncle is always first because he's been practicing his opening line since Halloween. The man greets you with energy he hasn't used since 1994. He grabs your shoulder like he's about to tell you the cure to life, and instead he whispers something like, I read an article that says turkeys might not be real. And now you're standing there, still holding your bag, trying to remember if you accidentally took the wrong exit and walked into a meeting you were not prepared to lead. Meanwhile, your aunt, who you haven't seen since last Thanksgiving, appears out of nowhere asking why you look tired, which is just polite family language for you look worse than last year. There's no safe way to respond to that question. You agree, she tells everyone. If you deny it, she tells everyone louder. There's your mom, your biggest fan, but also the CEO of chaos. She doesn't even say hello. She just starts assigning tasks like you're an employee she forgot to hire. Take your shoes off. Say hi to your grandfather. Help move the chair. Don't touch the pie. Pet the dog. Don't let the dog out. Did you bring that thing I told you to bring that I never actually told you to bring? And you're just nodding, hoping one of those instructions wasn't life-threatening. Meanwhile, your dad is in the background pretending he didn't know you were coming today, even though he texted you the day before asking what time you'd be arriving. Dads treat guests, especially their own children, like mysterious visitors from a faraway land. They'll say stuff like, "Oh, hey, you made it," as if you randomly wandered into their home on accident. But the hook, the real hook, is how quickly your family turns the moment into a group interrogation. It's as if you walked into a courtroom and every relative is a different type of lawyer. Someone asks about your job. Someone else asks about your future. Another one asks why you're still single. Your cousin asks if you still owe him $20 from 2009. You're not even inside the house for 2 full minutes. You're already reconsidering the meaning of family. And yet, as overwhelming as it is, there's something weirdly comforting about it. Because deep down, you know, this chaotic welcome isn't just random nonsense. It's their way of saying they missed you. They just say it with noise, questions, and unsolicited opinions instead of actual words. There's a very specific kind of pressure that hits you the moment your mom decides you are the one who has to say the Thanksgiving prayer. It's not a normal pressure. It's the kind of pressure that makes you suddenly forget every prayer you've ever heard in your entire life. You could have prayed yesterday confidently, like a seasoned pastor with a clean microphone. But the second your mom says, "Go ahead, sweetie," you pray, your brain just shuts down like it wasn't prepared for this level of responsibility. You can feel every pair of eyes at the table shift toward you, waiting, judging, silently hoping you won't embarrass the entire bloodline. It's the ultimate hook of the holiday as, can he do it? Will he crack? Will this be the year he actually sounds like he knows God personally? You clear your throat the way people do right before they improvise something they definitely did not plan. Now you're sitting there, hands clasped, trying to remember if prayers are supposed to start with, "Dear God," "Heavenly Father," or "Hey, it's me again." Meanwhile, everyone around the table is holding hands, pretending to be holy, but secretly thinking about the roles. Nobody cares what you say. They just want you to finish before the food gets cold. And yet, somehow, the moment you begin, your family turns into the most attentive audience you've ever had. People who haven't listened to you once all year are suddenly dialed in like your words will determine the fate of the turkey. You start speaking and instantly regret everything. "Dear Lord, thank you for this food this day and the stuff." You sound like a guy trying to remember his Wi-Fi password in front of a crowd. Try to make it better by adding something inspirational, but the only thing that comes out is, "We're just really grateful for everything that we know about, and also the stuff you do that we don't know about, but we know you did it." At this point, you're not praying, you're rambling. You're talking to God like he's a customer service representative, and you're trying to keep the conversation going while your mom finds the confirmation number. The worst part is that your family reacts to every mistake. You hear your aunt breathe in sharply when you accidentally thank God for the turkey and all the sides including dessert, which apparently is not how prayer works. Someone squeezes your hand too hard, like they're trying to steer you spiritually. Your cousin snickers. They're smart. Your grandmother opens one eye because she doesn't trust you with holy moments. Your dad is sitting there with the face of a man trying not to laugh at his own child collapsing under gentle pressure. But the real hook, the moment that keeps you humble, is when you finally wrap it up. You give the strongest amen of your life just so people know you're done. You look up hoping for applause or at least polite nods, but instead everyone just starts eating immediately. No acknowledgement. Good job, not even a nice prayer. It's the closest you will ever come to performing in front of a crowd that pretends you weren't even speaking. Yet next year, without fail, your mom will call your name again, because in her mind, the prayer person, the title you never asked for, the job you're not qualified for, the one performance where the audience refuses to clap, the moment dinner begins at Thanksgiving, the entire table transforms into something that feels less like a family meal and more like an accidental live podcast no one subscribed to, but somehow everyone is still forced to listen to. It's wild how quickly it happens too. 1 second you're sitting down, adjusting your napkin, thinking, all right, this will be calm, and the very next second, the whole table erupts into overlapping conversations that have absolutely no direction, no host, and no point. It's like everyone independently decided, I'm the star of this episode, and then started talking at the exact same time. This is the hook of Thanksgiving dinner. You never know which topic will show up first, but whatever it is, it will definitely be something no one actually cares about. You always have that one relative who starts a story that has no beginning, no ending, and no reason to exist. They begin with, so the other day, and then spend 15 minutes trying to remember the day. Meanwhile, you're sitting there politely nodding, slowly losing your will to live, because you know the story is eventually going to end with something unbelievably anticlimactic, like, so, yeah, smart, I guess the store was closed. Another person tries to talk over them with a story that's even less interesting, and suddenly you've got two people battling for airtime like it's an unmoderated debate. And the whole time you're thinking, can we not just eat in silence like a normal dysfunctional family? Then there's the relative who misunderstands every conversation, but still tries to participate. Someone mentions their car needing new tires, and she responds with, my neighbor's dog had surgery last month. And you're sitting there wondering if you missed an entire plot twist that connected cars, dogs, and medical procedures. But everyone at the table nods like this is completely normal, because Thanksgiving is the only day where you accept nonsense as part of the menu. The wildest part is how people treat you as if you're the designated expert on every topic brought up. You'll be chewing your turkey peacefully, minding your own business, when suddenly someone says, ask him, he knows. And now you're stuck pretending to understand a conversation you didn't hear the beginning of, and don't want to hear the end of. You try to respond safely, something neutral like, well, you know, it depends. But that only makes things worse, because now the entire table has stopped eating to wait for your full explanation, which you absolutely do not have. And while all this chaos is happening, there's always a kid talking loudly, trying to get attention, telling a story that contains exactly zero real information. It's something like, and then the dinosaur, and then the robot, and then I fell down, and then applesauce. The parents act like this child just delivered the Gettysburg Address while everyone else tries to decode whatever that was supposed to be. Meanwhile, you're just trying to eat. That's all you wanted. A simple, peaceful plate of food. But at Thanksgiving, plates come with responsibility. You can't just quietly take another scoop of mashed potatoes. Someone will comment on it. Oh, must really like those potatoes. And now you have to explain your relationship with potatoes like you're defending a life choice. Here's the hook that gets you every time now, halfway through the meal, you realize you haven't actually eaten that much. You've been too busy pretending to listen, pretending to care, and pretending not to choke on a dry piece of turkey while nodding politely through another pointless story. By the time the meal ends, you're not even full, just exhausted. You don't feel like you ate dinner. You feel like you survived a 3-hour audio recording you never agreed to appear in. That's when you remember this same exact podcast is happening again next year. There's a moment at every Thanksgiving dinner, right when everyone is finally calm, the food is settling. You think the worst is behind you when someone, always the bravest and least self-aware person at the table, decides to bring up politics. No warning, no hesitation, no concern for human safety. They just drop it into the middle of the table like a grenade wrapped in cranberry sauce. 1 second you're eating mashed potatoes. The next second the entire room has the tension of a courtroom where no one hired a lawyer. And the hook is always the same. You know exactly when it's coming, but you're never fast enough to stop it. The setup is almost predictable. Someone sighs loudly or casually mentions gas prices or says something innocent like, "The news has been crazy lately." And right there, right at that tiny, harmless comment, you can see the air shift. You can feel your soul leave your body in preparation. You hear someone put down their fork slowly, dramatically. They've been waiting months for this moment. And before you can blink, someone follows it with the deadliest sentence in family history. Well, I'll tell you what I think. Now the table is doomed. You could have prayed longer. You could have swallowed your pride. But instead, you are now an unwilling audience in the world's least productive debate. It's fascinating watching the transformation. People who were happily eating stuffing suddenly become political analysts. Uncles sit up straighter. Aunts adjust their glasses. Cousins who haven't read a full article since high school now speak with the confidence of professors. And you're sitting there silently begging God to let the fire alarm go off so you can all evacuate with dignity. You don't even care if there's an actual fire. At this point, smoke would be a blessing. The wild thing is how quickly everyone takes sides. One group nods aggressively, ready to back up every point with passion and zero research. The other group gets quiet. They're not because they agree, but because they're calculating the emotional cost of responding. And then there's you stuck in the middle, staring at the gravy like it's your last hope of peace on earth. You try to change the subject. You say things like, hey, this turkey is great, or who wants dessert? But no one hears you. You might as well be whispering into a hurricane. Eventually, someone tries to fix it by suggesting everyone should just calm down, which, as we all know, is the one phrase guaranteed to make every single person even more upset. Now, voices rise, hands wave, someone stands up for no reason, and the mashed potatoes begin to congeal while everyone pretends they're the only one being reasonable. You wonder if this is what the first Thanksgiving was like, pilgrims arguing about whose idea it was to travel without maps. The hook, the thing that always gets you, is that at some point, every person at the table will look directly at you. They don't want your opinion. They want you to pick a side. You're sitting there like a hostage negotiator who has no training. You say something neutral like, well, both perspectives are interesting, but both sides hear this as betrayal. You have now disappointed the entire family equally. By the time the argument finally dies, no one remembers what started it. People are breathing hard like they just finished a marathon. Someone adjusts their shirt. Another person mutters something under their breath, and you sit there in silence, taking a bite of stuffing that no longer tastes like anything. Thanksgiving harmony has been destroyed by the annual debate nobody asked for and nobody won. Because families have short memories, someone says, in the calmest voice possible, so who wants pie? Like nothing happened. Like you all didn't almost lose the furniture. You realize this cycle will repeat every year without fail, because apparently Thanksgiving dinner comes with turkey, rolls, and optional but unavoidable political meltdown. There comes a moment after Thanksgiving dinner when the entire house enters this strange, magical state of silence, almost like nature itself realizes everyone just consumed enough food to knock out a large zoo animal. It starts slowly, so quietly you could miss it if you weren't paying attention. Someone leans back in their chair a little too far. Someone else takes a longer than normal blink. A third person sets down their fork like they're saying goodbye to it forever. That's when you know the food coma is coming. Not just for one person, for the entire family. It moves through the room like a gentle, unstoppable wave. And the hook is that no one ever admits they're tired. Everyone pretends they're just resting their eyes, like that somehow makes the whole situation less dramatic. It's hilarious watching adults, full-grown, tax-paying adults, fight for their lives, trying not to fall asleep, even though their bodies checked out 20 minutes ago. Your uncle goes first because he always goes first. His head drops forward in slow motion, his chin hits his chest, and then he jerks back up like someone rebooted him. He'll look around, pretend he wasn't just asleep, and then say something like, I wasn't sleeping, listening to what? Fork scraping, the refrigerator humming. There hasn't been a conversation in 20 minutes. Meanwhile, your dad leans back in the recliner with his arms crossed like he's conducting a serious experiment in relaxation. He's out cold, but he'll deny it with his entire soul if you ask. I wasn't asleep. I know everything you just said. You weren't talking. Nobody was talking. The room hasn't had a coherent sentence since dessert. You have the kids running around at full speed because they're the only ones who didn't overdose on carbohydrates. They're screaming, jumping, bouncing, asking questions nobody can answer. And the adults, completely unresponsive, not because they're ignoring the kids, but because they are physically incapable of processing sound anymore. You could tell them the house is on fire, and they just lift one finger like 1 minute. And the hook is always the same. There's one kid who tries to wake up a sleeping adult by whispering, "Are you awake?" When that adult is clearly unconscious. The adult tries to respond, but it comes out as a strange grunt that sounds like a bear trying to speak English. Meanwhile, the living room becomes a battlefield of defeated relatives. People stretch out on couches like shipwreck survivors. Someone's sleeping with their mouth open, looking like they've given up on life entirely. Another person is half asleep, still holding a plate they should have put down 10 minutes ago. There's always that one cousin who snores so loud it resets the Wi-Fi. And all of it happens in this beautiful, peaceful moment after the chaos of dinner, as if the universe decided the only way to restore order was to force everyone into unconsciousness. And in the middle of all this, there's you sitting there trying to figure out how you got trapped in a room full of sleeping people who swear they're not sleeping. You try to get up and walk around quietly, but Thanksgiving furniture is designed to squeak at the wrong time. You move 1 inch and suddenly the entire chair screams like it's being attacked. Someone wakes up, insists they were awake the whole time, and then immediately falls back asleep mid-sentence. The funniest part is how synchronized it is. One moment, everyone's awake. The next, the entire room is out cold, like someone pressed a universal off switch. It's the most peaceful the family has been all day. No arguments, no stories, no stress, just quiet, soft snoring and the smell of leftovers. And as you sit there watching the scene, you can't help thinking the same thing every year. Thanksgiving is the only holiday where falling asleep in public isn't rude, it's expected. By the time Thanksgiving is finally winding down, smart, there's always that quiet moment where you step outside the chaos, just for a second, and think, is this normal, or is my family actually running a small circus without telling me? It happens every year like clockwork. You get in the car or walk into the hallway or stand by the sink pretending to be helpful, and suddenly the entire night hits you at once. The arguments, the stories, the political meltdown, the prayer disaster, the food coma, all of it. And you start wondering if anyone else goes through this, if your family has a secret subscription to a level of weirdness nobody else experiences. And that's the hook. The exact moment where you realize your family might actually be its own sitcom, but nobody is filming it. You start replaying everything in your head, and the more you think about it, the more ridiculous it sounds. You imagine explaining your Thanksgiving to a stranger and realizing halfway through that you sound like you're describing a support group, not a holiday. Yeah, so we showed up. Then someone argued about the government. Then my uncle fell asleep mid-sentence. We all pretended like none of it happened and ate pie. And the stranger would look at you like, are you okay? But to you, that's just Thanksgiving. It's tradition. It's the annual reminder that your family has its own rhythm. And that rhythm is slightly offbeat. You start looking around the room with fresh eyes, noticing details that didn't seem strange when you walk in. Like your aunt who always brings a dessert nobody touches, but she still brings it every year like it's her legacy. Or your cousin who somehow eats an entire plate of food, but still complains there wasn't enough salt. Or that one family member who shows up late, leaves early, believes that counts as helping out. When you see them all together, it suddenly makes sense why your childhood felt like one long episode of a comedy special you didn't realize you were starring in. The best part is when you catch someone else's eye, just one person, who has the exact same expression you have. Expression that silently says, did we all experience that fever dream, or am I losing my mind? It's the moment of solidarity where you realize you're not alone in your confusion. Someone else at the table is also desperately trying to figure out if your family is charmingly unique or dangerously unhinged. It's comforting in a weird way, like having a partner during a fire drill when nobody else seems alarmed. And then, just when you think you've finally processed it all, someone says or does something that proves your family is operating on a level of strange no other family can match. Maybe it's your grandma asking for the Wii, password like it's a nuclear code. Maybe it's your uncle trying to fix the TV with a butter knife. Maybe it's your dad standing in the kitchen eating leftovers directly out of the container like it's perfectly normal. You just stand there thinking, yep, this is definitely not how other families do Thanksgiving. But the real hook, the one that gets you every single year, is that despite all the madness, the noise, the confusion, and the absolute lack of boundaries, you still love it. You still show up. You still sit through the chaos, laugh at the ridiculousness, survive the arguments, and watch people fall asleep in chairs that definitely weren't designed for sleeping. Because deep down, they're smart. You know something important: if Thanksgiving were quiet and normal, you wouldn't even recognize it. The weirdness isn't the problem. It's the identity. And as you walk away at the end of the night, shaking your head, smiling to yourself, you realize the truth. Your family may be the strangest group of people you've ever met, but they're your strange people. And somehow, that makes the whole mess perfect. So yeah, that's Thanksgiving in a nutshell. You show up thinking it'll be calm, polite, even relaxing, and somehow you survive a full day of chaos, weird conversations, political debates you didn't sign up for, prayers you barely remember, and an entire family falling asleep like it's a coordinated performance. And the best part, you leave wondering if anyone else's family is this absurd, but secretly hoping they are, because otherwise, maybe you're the crazy one. Thank you, everybody. You've been a wonderful audience, and if your Thanksgiving looked anything like mine, don't worry, you're not alone.